Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
Good morning, Sil. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. Very
Good,
good. Very good.
good, good,
Yeah.
good. Hey, how's
I've been-
Bina doing? Have you spoken to her?
Yeah, she's been chatting a bit. She's still struggling with stuff, but I guess, there's movement at least. So, yeah, little by
Yeah,
little, by little.
she put up an odd text, and I didn't see that you even responded to it. And I'm like, oh, what's going on there?
Oh,
Um,
where was the text?
it was in a Facebook post, and
Oh,
it was
on her timeline?
yes,
Oh,
yeah,
no, I didn't see it. No, I didn't see it.
yeah. Read it. It's interesting. It's hard to tell if it's current or it's something
Oh,
old.
a memory. Oh, yeah. Could be.
You see it? Read that whole thing.
Let's see.
Maybe a little concerned, but
Me around 7 years back, that one?
mm, yeah, and then she said she's struggling with who she is and
Yeah. Yeah, she's dealing with worldview collapse, so it's,
oh, oh.
yeah. What's
Why
that?
all of a sudden? Because of COVID?
No, I don't think it's COVID. No,
No.
it's just, things accumulate, and um, ideas we have don't meet reality. That's often where the clashes come, and then you discover, oh, I'm not what I thought I was, and then you kind of got to start again. So, it
Oh.
happens. It happens. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't sound like it, but it sounded like a struggle.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Freedom from anxiety. It's hard to know what to say. I was just going to say, love you, Bina, and
That's all we can do is just be supportive. So, yeah,
exactly.
best we can. Yeah.
Any, go ahead.
No, I was just so I was thinking before you came on, just kind of housekeeping things, like how things going with Frauke and with Josla.
I haven't spoken to Frauke in quite a bit. I saw that she's, finally moving to Spain, which is her big dream,
So you completed your course, the thing with whatever
Yeah.
you're doing with the. All right.
Yeah.
That's
She
what I
wanted me
was-
to sign on again for them, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
To help.
Hopefully you got what you needed out of whatever it was. If you have to sign on again, then, well, first time
Yeah,
round.
see, that was part of the problem.
Yeah.
Between you and I, there isn't enough, what do you want to call it? For the money, enough coaching, enough information. And it was only, what was it, a 1 hour session every other week,
Yeah.
So
I
for the
felt that
money,
too.
and most of the time we just chatted about life and about or recipes,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what else can I do? Well, you're doing everything right, blah, 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 but it really wasn't,
Little thin.
It was very thin, and it just needed correction because there was too many calories I was putting in. She put in the thing like, don't worry, just eat what you want to eat, and and so forth. But I don't care if you're a bulimic or an anorexic or normal eating person. There's no fucking boundaries there. Eat what you want. No, sure. In anybody's head going, yeah, I'm going to have that piece of cake. I mean, and I was exercising so much where I was doing the vegan. It was amazing that I didn't gain weight, but I was exercising 2.5 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that was becoming problematic because my joints started to really react from that, because it wasn't the right type of exercise for me. So working with with Jocelyn has really, really made a tremendous, because he
But
corrected the posture first, so that when I did my exercises, I
yeah,
would be getting the most out of it. That's the first thing he saw in the Qigong classes,
yeah,
and
very, very cool.
uh, what was I going to say? So that got corrected, and then you go into strength training, and then you go into hit workouts and fat loss and stuff. So every 4 weeks I get a new program to do for 4 weeks, and it's
Excellent. I'm glad it's helping and working for you, and that's cool. Excellent. That makes me very happy to hear. Good
yeah,
deal.
it's very cool. And in that process, I mean, he surely understands the mind connection to the body. So we're trying to do a 10-day challenge program uh
To
with
create
people
one together.
together. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
good. Oh, good.
yeah.
Oh, good. Excellent.
And
Excellent.
then, again, in that challenge, as you well know, it's
Yeah.
just giving them enough information. Yes, they're going to take something and of gain away from it, of value, but it's to get them into the bigger program. So
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
you
Good deal. Good deal. Good
know,
deal.
yeah.
That's
So
exciting.
it's
Exciting.
content, and for me, I'm having trouble dumbing it down
It
because
is
there's
very, very, very difficult to do. Yeah.
you don't know how many times I've gone over my notes, watched the slides, reread the books, because
It's very
it's
difficult.
really
It's
hard.
very difficult.
And what do you leave out? But you can't get, like I said,
Exactly.
I'm not giving the fucking farm away. I mean,
It's
not
the
that he has
balance
to.
between the two. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very, very, very difficult. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So we're just trying to
Amazing.
hit on
It's
some
amazing how
subjects that
difficult it is. Yeah.
that come up a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of his target uh client. I'm
Yeah.
his
Yeah. Yeah. The ideal client. Yeah.
ideal client, because you're at an age where, not in my case, but kids are gone, you're trying to figure out who the fuck you are, and you want this body to work better for you. No, you realize that you can't look like you did at 20,
Right.
but to get back that functional strength. And it's not these, I've listened to all of them, I've joined many of them, you're in the middle of the night, you can't sleep, and you go on the internet. Oh, $49, you're guaranteed your money back, and you can lose 20 pounds in 20 days. They're just programs that are technically geared for the 20 and 30-year-olds, because their metabolism is so different than ours.
Right.
So they're gonna zip. Yeah, they'll probably take that with them. So it really only covers maybe 15-20% of the population. They don't.
And
Those people don't care. You sign up. You want your money back. What, they got tens of thousands of people signing up to try the program, and I've done some of them. There's no, when you have a question, which of course I always have millions of questions. It's so hard to get an answer from somebody.
Exactly.
You know.
The coaching industry has sort of they promote this non-one-on-one. That whole COD that I did, they absolutely just hammer this with one-on-one as part of their advertising, actually, to say, look, you're wasting fantastic amounts of money on one-on-one. And yes, to a certain extent, they're right. But what's the quality of your product again?
Exactly.
So,
neither of us want
desired.
Right. Neither of us want quantity. We want quality with the people. And when you're
it depends
doing
on what you're doing, there's one guy who makes like 6 figures a month teaching people to do headstands or handstands in yoga. That's all he does.
That's all he does. All he does.
So, I imagine he can do that in group settings. You don't have to do one-on-one for that. But yeah, it's amazing, so. Well, he figured out that people can't do it because they don't have the upper body or the arm strength, So, he starts them with that. So, it's amazing. But it's because it's such a holy grail in yoga, it's got a massive market because everybody's an ego thing,
Yeah. Yeah. We don't want that. And I said to him, at my age, you got a big life ahead of you. I said, I've never wanted quantity. I want the quality so that I can, remember my clients and, just like there's no way you could do 40 people a week in
No,
one-on-ones. You can't.
no,
You
not. I mean, I
can't.
am going to try it in a group format
Mhm.
when I do the private group,
Yeah.
and then I will give that a shot and see how that works. And all right, you are getting less, but you're also paying a lot less. All right, we'll
Mhm.
see how that works. I think it can work, um, depending on how much people are willing to put into it.
Yeah,
So I'll see. I'll see.
exactly. Which I mean, I'm just so new to all this Facebook crap and
Yeah.
all these programs and the marketing and oh Jesus, it makes my head spin off my shoulders some days. But
Yeah.
the uh they have to in those challenges, which I didn't understand in the beginning just because my ignorance, but they have to do the work
Oh
themselves
yeah.
on the side.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I'm
Oh yeah.
like, how are we gonna coach? I said, how am I gonna coach people? Your work is completely different. But I said
Mm.
to talk about a problem, what if somebody has an issue? You can't do that, So it's keeping it simple, keeping it just interesting and enough. They go, oh, geez, yeah, they know what they're talking about, or this is, caught my ear, caught my eye, and then
Right.
they'll come on board. But
I mean, those challenges, people understand that, well, it's a challenge and I've
yeah,
got to do stuff. I'm challenging myself. So there is already a built-in culture that's being leveraged through those challenges.
right.
So
It's
yeah.
not exactly. It's not dragging somebody in there off the streets. It's like, I
Wow.
don't know.
Right. Oh,
They
they
know there's
already,
work, but they have to do their homework.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
they don't have to. If they
yeah,
want to get their money out of it,
yeah. But it's a
yeah.
point of pride to do it,
Yeah.
as a
Mhm.
challenge. So yeah. And people they do take this on, and then they in their posts and the sharings they'll say how what they did and how much and all this. Well, I fell down a bit, and stuff like that. So it has some culture to it which can be leveraged, which is
Yeah.
useful.
It's just a kind of a marketing ploy,
Yeah.
the way I see it.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
a way to get
Just
people
get people
introduced
engaged. Yeah.
and know who you are, because these big ticket things, which is what I'm finding. I mean, I've seen so many new clients in the last month, and every every one of them still could use this program. I'm like, this is what I would highly recommend to you. And so it's always money.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
cannot pull thousands of dollars out of their
Yeah.
pocket, even if I offer them a payment program.
Yeah.
No, my God, they just about go,
Yeah. On the other hand, one mustn't be too put off by that, because I see too when people really really want something, they find the money.
that's right. And that's the lesson I learned. No, I don't get put off by it, but it's the no, 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 no.
It gets a
I
bit
just want to
despondent,
come
right?
once a week or once a month. I said, I would just so you know, it's a temporary band-aid for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can't get to the depths when you
Yeah.
come here for 1 or 2 hours once a month. But
Yeah.
if that's what you
Yeah.
want, then
Yeah.
okay.
So it's
You know,
knowing your client. I
yeah.
mean, I want clients like Cheryl, or
Yeah.
Kate, or
Oh, please.
I mean,
Please.
this is who I'm after, and that's my intent, and I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah.
So this is really key. That's why I said, I'll do it with Greg for Cheryl, not so much for Greg.
Yeah.
Unless he really shifts and demonstrates that he's really keen to
Mhm.
deal with this thing. But again, it's not it's not my favorite. But I mean, it's appropriate. It's attunement. It's the flow of
Right.
things. I'm happy
Right.
to do it. It's not a problem. But just in my overall thing, I want people who need to learn, not
That's
just
right.
want to learn,
And
who
are
need to.
committed and that are committed to do it. It
It's in
just
their
tells me that
DNA,
people,
this learning and growing.
yeah,
Right.
they're just not ready. This one woman, oh, this and that. Well, I'm going to tell you, so Jesus, if she has to get out of her own goddamn way. She has worn such a rose-colored glasses her whole life. She knows there was problems, but she smoothed everything over, had the cheating husband who ended up proselytizing himself, and she
Yeah.
still took him back.
Yeah.
she said what she liked about our session. Because I said, this is
Yeah.
obviously very different than what you've experienced in the past. I said, what are your thoughts on it? And she said, well, first of all, Sue, and this was the second, she said, you listened to me. She said, there was not an ounce of judgment. You don't know how many people I've spoken to. And, she tells her story and, people are going, and you're still with them? What are you, an idiot? Type of a thing. Surely can I in my head maybe think that, but I would never give a facial expression or say anything. You can't.
So critical. Yes.
Yeah. And that's what she never was given that space to heal in that manner of just, but she had this program written all over her. But again, you can't force people that aren't ready. You can't. It'll be like the Rachels in not that we forced her to do it, but no, she wasn't ready for that. I don't care what someone's issue is, but
I mean, she was desperately in need, but she wasn't ready.
Oh, yes, correctified.
I mean, same with that Isabella, I mean, she's just kind of dropped out, faded, and that's it, so it's a self-rectifying problem, that's the problem with the free stuff too.
Absolutely.
There's no real commitment, but
absolutely. And I'm done.
One needs to pick the people carefully, that
absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, look, Diane, you would have thought Diane would be ideal, but well, not really, because she's kind of surface, but shallow, so.
Yeah. So in time they'll recognize that. Hopefully, recognize that.
So I just trust, and that's all we can do. Is you keep at it, you trust, and because I also look at just look at the average income, median income. Yes, people complain and struggle with money, but almost everybody has got a credit card. They put that on a credit card, pay it off on a over a year. It's like
I say this is the cost of the rest of your life. What is that worth?
So
like I told you, that lady, she's in this massive house. For herself.
Did she ever respond to doing something about just the financial sort of consult, just to
I didn't talk to her about I didn't
just to kind of get your stuff sorted and rent a house or do Airbnb or something, do asset management and finance management. That's really what she needs. And then she can, once she's got that stuff out of the way and she's at least got this pressure off, then she can focus on her personal stuff.
Exactly.
It's quite amazing, really, when you get down to it, that how little we can really help unless people want to help themselves. It's you can't really do anything. It's astonishing. That's
correct. Yeah. So
did any more post about that?
What's that?
I think I'll make a post about that or talk about this. Do a Facebook Live on how, no matter how much you have to help, if somebody's not interested, they don't want to make that effort, they're not committed.
Exactly. I had another client here last night, and she's going through a lot herself. Her mother, they diagnosed with very, very serious cancer, and her daughter's turning 30. She might be moving, she might be getting married. I mean, another grandchild with severe allergies. I mean, lots and lots on her plate. And she has a friend who she's forever pulling her in off the ledge. She's just a very needy friend who just collapses very easily. Yes. Does she's a single mom, and does she have a Down syndrome kid who's in his 30s, almost 40s, but still her life isn't easy. And, she wanted to put an addition on the back of her house, and it's just, no, well, maybe I need to do something inside and blah, blah. And she's just all over the place and getting too involved in her kid's life that her married she doesn't need to be involved in. So my client says, listen, I'll come over, we'll chart it all out and, like pros and cons and break it down. And I said, that's a fabulous idea you came up with. I said, because you're breaking it down into small steps, because clearly she's overwhelmed, doesn't know where to begin, what's a priority, what's not a priority. And then she said to her friend, and then we'll get together and we'll we'll do it. Well, and I said, make sure in your thing that you are appropriately helping her, because sometimes that, and all I could see was myself, how I just jump in and help people, and that's maybe not what she needs. Said you could actually be making that situation worse when you really step back and think about it. She goes, oh, oh. I said, it's not for you to completely, she has to figure it out herself. An
Yeah.
appropriate assistance is great. I
Yeah.
said, but inappropriate helping, you're going to make matters worse. She'll never, you'll always be pulling her in off the ledge, and
Yeah.
that's the same thing with Bernadette. I don't want to
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
having, the times are less and less, but that's not what I want in her friendship,
No, exactly, exactly, exactly. And
So
they have to realize that too. And that's a tough
yeah,
lesson to
yeah,
realize, that dependency.
yeah.
And
Oh,
then, that's tricky because, and I think this is part of Fobina, too much interaction. It creates an inadvertent dependency,
yeah,
so
yeah,
she's aware of it, and it's rough though. It's difficult, Yeah.
yeah.
You need to let go of something that's really pleasurable and enjoyable and valuable, but it's like overeating. It's difficult once you get into that habit. So,
Mhm. Yeah,
but
it's
that's
those
life.
boundaries, and knowing how to, keep yourself grounded and so forth. That's what always amazes me about you. You keep your composure is steady throughout the whole thing with all these people with all these different issues, and you
Oh,
keep it all in check, and that's what makes
sure.
it effective.
Yeah.
She's a very, she doesn't show it. She's a very stoic kind of a person.
Yes, very
But
much. And that's part of the problem, though,
yeah,
because what we see and what's external, what she puts out there, is a big difference to what's inside. And
absolutely.
when those two start to get to be a conflict in some way, where the one doesn't support the other, you're presenting something, but you're not it on the inside. This is a big problem, and then you get the worldview collapse at some point.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you could see her connections and her questions from, they're pretty amazing, but I've started to see how
Yeah.
much is that a reflection? How can that be?
Yeah.
How can you be so astute on a subject like that unless it's what you are experiencing? Yeah.
Exactly. And that was the magic of Bina, is that she is coming from this. But it's tough.
But then you're not getting your own issues addressed. You're just kind of almost emphasizing them.
Yes. And you're doing through externally through others,
Ah,
recognizing it's somebody else. That's the difference here. If you recognize it and you don't make that effort to now apply it to yourself, if you think you know it because you recognize it, you lost. You have to deal with it inside. You have to
yeah.
deal with it inside.
Yeah, and that's what, she constantly will make those statements. So thank you, thank you. You don't know how much I've learned from this. You don't know how much I've learned. And at first I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool that, she's able to be real and say, I don't know everything. I'm learning. And we all are. But
Yeah.
it's 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 so often that I thought, I don't think this is just a nice thing to say to somebody. Thank
Yeah.
you, you're helping me. I understand. You don't know how much. And I'm thinking, okay, what is
Yeah.
really underneath this? Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
was hoping that, through her learning the facilitating, that she'll shift away from the over immersion into me
Yes.
and externalize a little bit. And she
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
aware of it too, so it's tricky, because like I said, you sort of get addicted to stuff a little bit.
Exactly. And the word is over
And
immersion.
yeah,
Over
she
immersion.
had the time, so that's why I was very pleased. I recommended for the longest time she start doing the art, to
Hmm.
get that shift, because it was such a big deal for her. She was a kid. She used to write on the walls and draw on the walls, and not just the drawing but the writing too. To shift her back into herself, because she stopped writing and then she started again. She started the art, and then that at least gave a slightly different focus. and that's led to, at least, things starting to one thing to another. So it's a shift for her and a break.
Yeah.
So it's very cool. It's
Yeah,
very
that's
cool.
the happiest I've seen her. The excitement that she, Sue, I have to show you. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is some big fucking deal to her.
The
Find
child
out what
understands.
yesterday you said, find out what motivates, where they want to spend their energy, and you find out what motivates them.
Exactly. But there was lots of, blockages and stuff to it for whatever reasons. I'm not exactly sure why. But when she did start in that, and she got a sister involved, and it's very cool. It very shifted.
Yeah.
The biggest problem for Bina, in my perspective, is her immersion into the family. It's very restrictive in so many aspects. I mean, tremendously so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she has the ability to step out, not the ability. She has probably the desire to step outside because she's
but
been
she's
seeing the
on.
other side of the world with all this interaction with people. And then you look at your life and really, Sil, I mean, God bless them over there. I don't see how they live in those big family situations.
I don't either. And also her particular situation as a woman, just to have independence in her mind, it does exist where there are single women who take care of themselves, but she sees this as a horror because many people are negative towards it and all this, and it's not realistic for her. Not like, I mean, yes, there is a
The
big,
norm. It's the norm.
yeah, but it does exist and people can do it, but you have to have real independence of being, I mean, because I mean, she goes to arts council and there are people who are gay there. It's, the gay pressure. So I remember in South Africa was the same thing. You have to find those pockets and be in, because there's subcultures in places, especially in the cities, like at the arts council, that where stuff is outside of the norm, but it's very, very, very difficult for that. And also, she doesn't feel she has a professional job or whatever, to support herself. So, but it's also problematic though, because her being kind of single with the brother, it puts crimp on him getting married. If he gets married, then the whole home situation changes. So it's a big mess, it's a big mess.
So what would happen? Because the brother is the one who is mostly
Yeah, I
paying
mean,
for
there was the
everything.
stepfather, but he died. But that's also complicated. Anyway, so she said, well, if he does get married, she becomes the like sister, second, something. But anyway, it takes her down in the sort of hierarchy, and she becomes sort of subservient to his wife. Now, I mean, it depends on how the wife is, but the brother's very nice. And the brother won't abandon her. He really looks out
That's
for her. And he
interesting.
knows that she's different. So
Yeah,
it's just messy and it's complicated. But there's a massive pressure on her to get married, which she, of course, doesn't want to do.
yeah, yeah,
It's just a
yeah. That
mess.
sounds like the Albanians, those
Yeah.
Presnicis from Kosovo. As soon as another sister-in-law came in to the
Yeah. The whole
picture,
thing. Yeah.
they drop down. They're the ones who got to make the bread every day. Then there's one that has to clean. Then there's one that's responsible for. So the more women that come into the picture, their roles change because their hierarchy shifts. And I'm like, are you effing kidding? I mean, it just, even in America, to think that they still do that in this country. So
Yeah. So
the
other
good,
parts of it is just through the awareness, her perspective on her mother shifted, you know. And she's so, because the mother doesn't treat her nicely. The mother's quite, sometimes she doesn't have a positive opinion of Bina, for whatever reason. So, and even the siblings said, so she confronted the mother just before she stopped facilitating. I mean, kind of nicely, but still, just I was very surprised that it was quite a big deal. And I think that's, that post, all of it is related to all of this stuff, the awareness pressing on her to shift her behavior. And it's really, really difficult in that situation. I mean, for her to just kind of stand up and say to the mother directly, look, I mean, I don't know, she made like a list of an invitation to something, and Bina wasn't on the list, stuff like that. It's like, how come I'm not on the list? And just not in the mother's consideration. So it's not that the mother's mean to her necessarily, but it's very subtle, She's sort of
Yeah.
disappointed in Bina, and it's subtle things, silly things. So,
Wow.
so she realized that, the mother's not all that she always thought the mother to be.
Yeah.
She
Again, there.
always knew it, but she was, sharing this vibe. My mother's so wonderful, fantastic. No, your mother's a BMN,
Yeah.
a very nice, covert, subtle BMN, but, I'm Queen Bee and all of this and all this nonsense and status and ego is very important to her. So that's all harsh realities. And, it's a lot because the situation is a mess and she realizes it doesn't have any way to deal with it. So,
Mm,
yeah.
mm. Yeah.
There's
It's
no real way out
anytime
for
you
her.
put, what's that, huh?
There's no real way out for her.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you.
So I
Anytime you
said,
put anybody on a pedestal, uh, the only way, the only location is down because, and it makes you think, could a mother be that terrific, that great? They're a human being who makes
and the
mistakes.
mother told her she's a human being. The mother's a strange contrast. She is sensible, but she's also kind of full of nonsense.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, she talks out both sides of her
I,
mouth.
I hope that she does find somebody she does want to marry.
Yeah, I hope so. I
That's
hope
about
so.
the only way out. Or she finds somebody who wants to marry her.
Who
That
thinks
that
differently?
yeah, but also or maybe like somebody who's gay. Now I don't know if that'll work for Bina, but where she's the beard and she leaves Bina completely to her own, and that's it. And that would work, but I don't know for Bina that she doesn't have that sort of ability to shift and make such kind of allowances. That it has to be sort of what it's supposed to be. So I don't know. I just hope she finds somebody that she really wants to marry.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
hope for her
Yeah.
sake.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't see any other way out for her at this stage. But you never know. Things change, people change, situations change. COVID is changing things. So
Exactly. This could be a gift in a very bizarre way,
and she has many options for income. Just through all the stuff that we did. I many different ideas. Never mind just doing programs and stuff. Um, just being a tutor and stuff like this, which she's done before. She has plenty income opportunities. So that's not the overall concern. It's just she doesn't want to be alone and have people kind of be, oh, you're a single woman and that sort of, negativity that comes. I don't think it's as bad as she thinks it is. And, you're queuing, you can change it, but still, it's her beliefs. It's what she feels
Yeah,
and thinks. So.
yeah.
Complicated problem. So I'll
Interesting.
just, we just be there for her and trust and say, okay, hang in
Absolutely.
there, hang in there.
Absolutely. So
She's not going to give up, I don't think, So
no, she
just
isn't.
has a long journey, which is problematic. And
Mhm.
she's such an innocent,
Oh,
and
yeah. And I think that's a big piece of it. It's that naivete that's attached to her.
but also ability to be sophisticated, both at the
Yes,
same time.
exactly.
That's a problem.
Exactly. It's an odd combination.
Very odd combination, right?
uh, You
So it's the application that's the issue.
know.
Because if you're aware that you're sophisticated and that you're innocent and you're aware that you're both, that leads to a belief that you sort of can do. But then when push comes to shove and you find you can't quite, well, then stuff starts to collapse.
Mm. Well, I hope for the best.
And I don't really know what the solution is
Yeah.
when there is that belief in self, and it it's it gets substantiated in some ways, but not in others.
Mhm.
So then that application comes out. You saw on the Facebook Live,
Oh,
where that belief clashed with the reality, and that was a big issue. That was a very that's kind of the start of that Facebook Live,
yeah. She
because I
wasn't
wanted.
prepared. She didn't want to do it. And Daniela was last minute. I mean, canceled last minute or something, you said.
But she had the whole week to prepare, at least, just, even if somebody else is there, at least know a little bit what you want to do. forget even that. Even if you're completely unprepared, I said, no problem. I'll talk most of the time. Just keep me company. Just be here, just be the foil. Just make the space. And I asked a couple of comments. It's like, really, she was sitting there feeling foolish. And of course, feeling foolish shut her mind down. But where's the application that you feel foolish here? And that's just, I brought up the video for some reason. I wanted to check something, and I was about to play it. He says, no, I don't even want to see it. There was like the worst time in my life, and it was like so extreme for her. And I'm like, wow.
You know what's funny? The whole time I was watching and listening to that, I thought, who is she? Who is Bina? She was she was out of her own skin. Yeah. And it was so exactly apparent. Yeah. And she didn't have to say anything. And I could sense something wasn't right there.
And that, the discomfort, in her own feeling foolish and just being out of it and all this, the inability to just simply be there. Where's the application of just hearing? You could have just sat there and listened, that's it, So where's the application of all sorts of things? Just the patience, lack of self-importance, all the stuff. It all went out the door. And, so I was like, wow, really? Seriously? It blew my mind, I was just, come on, really, this is too much. So, and now that awareness, that idea and reality are separate. That's the problem for her.
And I think the fact when she is seen, there's still something under there that she can't show herself. She's not proud of herself. She's whatever. She hides behind the blank screen all the time.
Yes. And that added to it because
a
few days before that, I mentioned about, just coming on video. I said, I brought it up because I said, yes, I personally don't care, but it does matter in the context of what we are doing, just from a professional point of view. And I said, look, yes, at some point you did have a reason, because originally she said, well, and that was true at the time. She, the way her room was arranged, she had her back to, and people come to the bathroom and they'd walk by. But that had changed long since. And I was aware of this, and I just let it be because it's not an issue for me. But then, people did kind of mention, people came on Zoom just to come and chat with us. And some of them said, oh, how can I see you and all this? And it was important to them. So I mentioned that this is starting to now be necessary. It's conspicuous in its absence. So I said, and, the reason that you can't put it on, it doesn't apply because you've got a blank wall behind you.
I saw that there was a completely different background. You couldn't see. I mean, who wants to see somebody's bed, in the background, please? But
I mean, originally she was, because she has a bathroom that people use.
Right.
They walk through a room. So, okay, they now behind and seeing, okay. It's not really a reason, but kind of, So it was a kind of a cover, and I accepted it at the time, but it's her not wanting to wear. She's not comfortable on there. So I pointed this out, and I sort of pressed on the issue a little bit. It's like, it's time to apply. You can't be putting this off forever, So now you combine that, and then with the Facebook Live and the realization that, yes, I can't do this, actually. I'm not comfortable. So.
Yeah.
She liked the idea of the Facebook Lives at one point. She was very excited and eager. But again, application versus idea. Overestimation of self. I don't know. It's a big problem. This was a big issue for Olivia too. Same thing. Same exact thing. And I don't know how to deal with it, really. They get into a bubble, and they really believe their stuff. But they know at some point it's not there. And then if you press it, then it collapses. It's like, I don't know what the way out is. So, I just trust and do whatever I can, the best I can.
Yeah, and again, like you said,
difficult problem.
They've got to pinch and prick slowly their own bubble to collapse it. When you can see the dangers of when someone else collapses their bubble.
They paint themselves into corners, though. That's the problem, because all of their relationships, all of their friendships is based on this idea of what they've put out there. Right. I know more. I'm spiritual and whatever. Wise, whatever. Yeah.
It's the same thing when she was at the Arts Council. Everybody looked up to her.
Exactly.
came for her work, her wisdom, and her astrology, and all this other stuff. So, she really cultivated that same situation here.
Exactly.
She did.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But never really understood herself.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh well. Well, I can only hope good thoughts for her.
Yeah, but I do trust because
Yeah.
she is sophisticated in her own way. She has the ability to understand. It all depends on the inner the self-honesty. That's really the problem.
Yeah.
And that was the thing for me with the video. I let it go. Okay, you're uncomfortable, but seriously, with me now, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
after
Come
all
on.
this time,
Come
I
on.
mean, really, come on, but you still want to maintain that there's some external reason for it. No, come on, be honest here now, really, seriously, I mean, it's, and kind of put your money where your mouth is. If you want to now say I am all this morning, well, then put on the damn video. It's like so
Right.
simple, I mean, prove it. You've got to have that self-proof. This is the key for me.
Eggs.
I
There you
see
go.
time and time again that one single thing is so critical.
Absolutely. There's
Without
a
that self-proof,
perfect
we can
example.
be in the
Yeah.
bubble.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You can
Exactly.
think
And
all fucking day long, Sil,
yeah,
that
yeah.
that you have
But
all
the
these
proof that you can do
qualities
it,
and things, but
fine.
until you actually do it,
Exactly. Exactly. Now,
bullshit.
when you
Bullshit.
do make an effort to do it, it doesn't mean that you are going to be fluid and comfortable and it's going to be easy. No, it doesn't matter. As long as I can do it, I'll learn to be comfortable over
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
I'll learn to be better, but I still got to get to that point where I actually can do it. Doesn't matter how well I can actually do it. And that's cool. So I was thinking of this next Facebook Live. I probably will talk about this just about ego and about self-application or application and proof of self to demonstrate that we have, because you get that gap otherwise, and then
Yeah.
it's a big mess. So that's a big topic. It's a big topic. Yeah. Just ego in general is a big topic.
Mhm.
All the nuance of ego, how we can leverage it and use it, and how it's a tool and how it can take over like a virus on your computer. You've got to use it appropriately.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I hear you.
Interesting, interesting, very interesting. So all powerful, I see the magic in the bigger picture, and I also think that for me personally, my own lesson is to I'm sort of eager to give the benefit of the doubt too much.
Mhm.
So I think that I sort of have to be a bit stricter in that application of the self-proof.
Mhm.
So, because if somebody feels that they can be anything and everything and it's not a problem, and they just grab on and they do have some success, but the gaps, they jump too much, then it leads to this discrepancy.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that more, you're giving them too much rope almost. Yes, sometimes you got to let that line go a little bit and
it's
have, it
tricky
doesn't have to be
balance.
taught all the time. But
Uh,
but yeah, you're right.
it's a tricky balance. I see the potential, but the potential alone is not enough. The
Yeah.
the potential has to be backed up by action. That's what I enjoy with Cheryl, especially. Well, and the others. Kay and Eric and Robert. They do make that effort to apply, and that's the key. That without that application, but we can skip steps, and it seems like and that's the point. I believe that seems like, and I should be a little bit more cautious to say
Mhm.
no. Not to
Tell me.
gloss over things like the video. I should
Yeah.
have paid attention to that video, way back when I first saw that. And no, what, sorry, this is a BS reason. There's people behind you. Just turn your computer around, sit on the other side of the table, for Christ's sake.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it was just a little too, like you said, a little too loose.
I mean, it's my fault. I was too accommodating of it.
Yeah. There
I
you go.
should
There's the
never
word.
have been accommodating of it in the first place, ever. Should
Yeah.
have said, "Whoa, sorry, but
And how many people have, participants, not only some other people on the Facebook lives, have said,
Yeah.
You know, where is she? It was 6 months till I saw her face. I say, I'd love to see in like, didn't feel like I was pressing her, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to see a face behind that beautiful voice and all these amazing comments, you
Yeah,
know,
and the
but
thing is, it is a thing for her. She's overweight and she doesn't want to be overweight.
oh, she's not
You know.
overweight.
Well,
Stop.
in her mind,
In
she's
her
overweight.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, she put on weight. She was always a slim girl,
Purposefully.
and then she put on weight so she didn't have to get married. Or at least to put that off. So it was a very deliberate thing.
Mm.
But the mother is critical of it, and the mother thinks that something wrong with her nose, and the nose reminds her of her auntie who wasn't a nice person and stuff like this. So the mother's made her self-conscious about this.
Oh, boy.
So yeah,
What a crime. What a
yeah,
crime.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
And the embarrassment part in that
Yeah.
culture, that's the
It's
biggest problem. I mean, in her mind, she felt that she was just being, on that Facebook Live. She's just there as, like, I don't know, she wants to like a secretary or something, that. But
demeaning.
you,
Demeaning.
yeah, she felt the mean, but it's all in her own stuff. It's nothing to do with me. It's like you could have led the session. Because you had the chance to choose the topic. I would have sat and listened to you if you wanted it. You have as much or as little as you want. So you have to really see this for what it is. It's a subscription to a peculiar form of ego. This embarrassment. When we are capable of being embarrassed, it's an ego problem. That's it.
Mm.
Really.
Mm.
Yeah, at least where embarrassment is so on the surface,
Yeah.
it's so close to
Yeah.
stuff.
And lack of
Sorry.
self
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
understanding, self-honesty. I mean, there's a lot of stuff underneath that. Yeah. No.
Exactly. So it's an issue. It's a big
Yeah.
issue. But still,
No,
it's so intrinsic in her personal culture. It's a big deal. I mean, it's part
yeah.
of her
Yeah, I
goodness,
think that
her
adds.
consideration. Yeah, she doesn't want to embarrass the family and all this, and it's really deeply sunk in. So it translates out into personal things. So she feels that putting on the video embarrasses her family, all this stuff. Yeah.
What
It's a problem. The
craziness.
problem.
What
Yeah,
craziness. Yeah.
yeah. But
Again, when they would
profound.
continue to live that life
Yeah.
without knowing what was really happening. And that's how those cycles, those generational cycles go over because they're not exposed. They're not exposed.
Exactly. That's the problem. Venus aware now. And she's
She's
aware of all
born
these
because of
problems.
her.
And now that's why the worldview collapsed. Because, man, how do I deal with all this stuff? It's like 101 different problems. It's not just me, it's the culture, it's the environment, it's the situation. And, to deal with it on the inside, it's a massive, massive obstacle. I mean, she already has the ability really to be different in her personal environment with the family, but she has to take that to a next level extreme, which I don't know if she's prepared to do that or not. So. Problem, difficult. I will see. I trust though. I trust, and the universe too. When you keep going and you make an effort, things work themselves out. Things change,
Yeah.
Lots of ways
Yeah,
a situation can change in many ways.
Yeah.
Quite amazing.
All right.
Quite amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Freedom from anxiety. We're on module 3. We're on and slide 5. We had gone through every one of those words.
Yeah. Yes. All the options.
That was,
Yeah.
I don't know how
the payoffs. The payoffs. Yeah.
The payoffs. Yeah. So slide 5 is convenient excuses to avoid excess stress and pressure. What you're just talking about. Convenient. Well, and people are coming in the bathroom. Too funny. As noted in the previous slide, where a few LOL
a few lol. You're making a joke on the few.
A few laugh out loud of payoffs and motivated are listed. Oh yeah, because I was talking about it. Are listed for anxiety and worry because we want to emphasize how much our stress and worry is simply a convenient mechanism to avoid excess anxiety and pressure. It is our belief that these are convenient, but the obvious tells us from the previous list that this is that it is that really convenient. It's not really convenient at all. That it is not really convenient at all. The price you pay is very heavy, even though we haven't really realized it before now. So my takeaway is, for me, in many cases, many forms of convenience or shortcuts usually don't pay off, and sometimes the consequences are huge. But now we can see the danger of those payoffs and motivations of being anxious or worried. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's a big one there. Okay.
Yeah, the dangers are huge once you're aware of them.
Yeah. Self-sabotage oddities. We may think we are helping ourselves, as seen in the previous list, but in actuality, we are doing nothing more than making matters worse, compounding the problem and filling ourselves that we are doing and filling ourselves that we are doing something good and worthwhile.
Fooling ourselves.
Fooling. There you go. Jesus. Thank you. Good thing you're a good listener. Okay. Perhaps we can't blame ourselves completely, because this is what we have been taught and did not know any better. We need replacement ways of being, which is actually positive, useful, functional, effective, in your replacements that will allow a real solution and peace of being. My takeaway is, because we never knew any better due to conditioning, we can't completely blame ourselves for these habits. We just need to find replacements of being so that the resolution of peace of being can be found in ourselves.
Yeah. So up there, I'm throwing out a bit of an olive branch. I mean, we put a lot of pressure on the worry pot in that list. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and we've been kind of pushing on them. Okay, yeah, right. Conditioning, you've got an out. You're not entirely to blame. Don't worry. Don't think that you're the worst thing in the whole world. All right, we'll give you a little bit of out to relieve that pressure. However, now that you know, it's a different story. Yeah. Right? And now you got no excuses. You had an excuse before that you didn't know. You were in a bubble of unawareness and emotion. All right, fair enough. But now that you know, sorry. So they'll get that temporary relief to say, okay, well, I'm not to blame. Yeah, well, now you know, and now you would be to blame. So, yeah, a little bit of subtleness there, because it's important. If they feel too much pressure, they do know that, well, I was unaware of all the stuff. So we have to give that little bit of ease here,
I just want to make a facilitator note in here.
Yeah.
About that olive branch, which is really.
Yeah. Just to take a bit of the pressure off. Because
Yeah.
otherwise you get overwhelmed by that pressure. If they take on the responsibility for all of that initially, then they might just implode, right?
Okay.
I mean, there is a tendency to assume guilt, and there's a capability or a facility for assuming guilt. Now we have to be careful that they don't take all this on and feel guilty and, oh my God, I'm so terrible, I'm so useless, and all this.
Yeah.
Giving you a way out,
Yeah, exactly. I think for most people, it'll just be like, oh, Jesus. Okay, now I know I really have to think about this. I think very few people will completely collapse from that that guilt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. When we
Yeah.
say, look, yeah, yes, you're guilty, but what are you guilty of? You're guilty of being unaware. That's
Right.
life. That's the human condition. We're all guilty of being unaware. You can't feel guilty about it. It is what it is. That's it. But now you can do something about it. So do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. If you don't do when you can do,
Right.
well, that's a different story.
Yeah. Again, that's where
Pressure.
awareness is self-curative. Once you know,
Exactly.
okay, you get a pass because
Exactly.
you didn't know, but now you
Exactly.
know how important that is. So now you're aware.
Exactly.
Now you
Exactly. Once you
choose to
know,
understand
do.
it. Right.
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 Once you know, do. That's it.
Right.
That's it. That's the way awareness is self-curative. When that awareness results in actual doing.
Yeah.
Application. Cool. Right.
Slide 7. We self-sabotage ourselves with what we believe to be a payoff and reward for our anxious or worrisome behavior. But in the big picture, they're not beneficial at all. They they usually are harmful, energy draining, and they lack fun.
Yeah.
So when it comes to anxiety and worry, we end up being our own worst enemy. Very, very important to understand that. Takeaway for me, in our heads, we think that our behavior to worry and to be anxious have a real need and payoff, but instead they're really hurting us in so many ways, draining our energy and taking away our fun. We become our own worst enemies.
Human beings are quite remarkable in their capacity to endure suffering willingly. It's astonishing. It's astonishing.
Physical pain, emotional pain, everything. Yeah.
And misery. Those worry pots, they're quite miserable, but somehow they find a way to make it pay off for them,
Yeah. And I'm sure in the animal kingdom, it's survive or die. There is no
but more blatant,
taking on what you don't need to take on. Slide 8. They quote, just what exactly does worry actually achieve? Like, seriously, just what exactly? I really want to know. What does it help? Why do it? What's the point? How does it make sense? How is it justifiable? Really, is there any good reason to worry? Aspirant Nora from The Disappearance of Nora. My takeaway is, for me, when you really ask yourself these simple questions, how can you possibly answer them in a way that makes anxiety and worry valid or show achievement? They can't.
Exactly. I mean, you can't answer those questions.
Yeah.
All right. So Aspirant Nora is loosely based, very loosely based on a Nora that I actually do know. I met her playing games. Very sharp girl, very smart, but had lots of psychological issues. I think she was just too smart for the family she was in. She was adopted. At least she said she was adopted. And I don't know what all the stuff was, but she was quite fine as far as I was concerned. She was very overweight also in this part of the family, status and stuff. But anyway, I mean, she was okay for the most part, but obviously had some stuff going on. Anyway, so she was a great friend. I really enjoyed her, and really was very insightful and in depth and stuff like this. When she was young, she was just a kid when I first met her. At any rate, then suddenly she just disappeared. Nobody knew. None of the other people at game, nobody knew where she was. It's just very odd. She didn't come on the game, and she was somebody who played the game every day and all this. And Facebook, she just stopped posting on Facebook. It's just gone. So I persisted for 6 years. I every now and then I'd make every effort, search for her, find her. Eventually, I managed to find her through her sister, who hadn't been on Facebook but came on Facebook. And so I got to chat to her. Oh my God, it's like a completely different person. And she was working in Home Depot or Walmart or something, dealing with little ceramic figurines. That was her department. That's all she could speak about. Just how she's made this thing so wonderful, the department, and I've got it all organized, the figurines, and that's it. I mean, she was like, I don't know, like a 2-year-old talking about these figurines, right? So I don't know if they did like shock treatment therapy or something, but her brain was completely different. I mean, and that was it. So, I mean, even though, and, I messaged her once or twice, but nothing. No, the person I knew completely gone.
Was gone.
Completely gone. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And amazing.
Yeah. What a shame. What a shame. What a horrible story.
Yeah. I mean, on the other hand, she's happy now. I mean, when I knew her, yes, she was unhappy, but also miserable. I mean, the father, the sister, the mother. It wasn't all, just a drama, lots of drama stuff in her life. Even though when we interacted, it was really great, and she enjoyed the game, and she was full of life and vigor and all this. But problems of some kind. So, but still. So, all right, who knows? Maybe she's in a little bubble of happiness, like the
Yeah.
dog.
Now she just checked out and her life is very simple now. She doesn't
Yeah.
have to worry because she checked
But
out.
she's definitely not the same person. So either she's on extreme medication. I mean, maybe she was bipolar, and it caused that problem. And she's on an extreme medication that puts her in this bubble. But hey, I mean, if you didn't know what she was before, you go, wow, she's happy. She's in a bubble. Very simple person, very childlike. Very simplistic. Okay, like people, special needs people working at the supermarket. It's the same thing. So still really interesting to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting is right.
Puzzles in life,
Slide 9, blame and non-ownership. How much of anxiety and worry is shifting of blame onto others or situations for what are really your own issues and problems?
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt here, but that's very much an issue
Whew.
with Bina right now.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
collapse. I'm the one who's the source of it, because obviously I brought the awareness into things. So yes, of course, but still, in order to justify and rationalize and balance and to make all the the ego give it its own credibility, you have to find a bad guy somewhere.
Yeah.
If you can't say it yourself, you've got to externalize it. So I'm happy to be that villain. I really don't mind, but still, I don't know. It's got to be some better ways to do this.
Yeah.
At least I hope so. But
Yeah. I hope so too, Sil. She's just a very special, unique individual,
she's magical. She's magical. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, how are you handling all this? Yes, you say you're
I'm okay. I'm really, really okay. Really, I'm quite fine with it. I made peace with
because you
this kind of.
understand, because you understand.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. I do understand. And I'm aware of exactly what's involved. And I say, look, because I am at peace that I made absolutely every effort that I
Yeah.
can. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know. I don't know how to solve every problem. I'm at peace with that also. I do know how to make an effort to be of assistance and, try everything, I mean, even to the extent of kind of getting a bit feisty or strict or annoyed or whatever. At some point, you're listening, and somebody's pushing and they're just not hearing. Okay, and then they get upset and bothered, and
yeah.
then all right, I'm willing to do that. I know I'm going to pay a hefty price for this. My choices are I cease to interact and say, okay, I kind of cut you off and say, well, look, you're not making the effort, or I try and press through that bubble. I try everything, so I'm completely at peace. I really have no problems there. And I also know there is persisting interaction. I mean, I see this with Olivia. I mean, our relationship is really good, and we had a long chat the other day. And slowly but surely, there's movement. There's movement. It seems like doors might open, but it's man. So I never give up. I just keep going. But yeah, I'm completely at peace. And if I don't, like with Olivia, it's I mean, if I don't ever see her again, I'll be all right with that.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
really make
because
peace with it.
you tried. You did whatever
Absolutely,
you could.
absolutely. Way over and above.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's long past the point of conscience and impeccability. I mean, to a point of being stupid about it, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Your persistence to hold on to some people is
Exactly.
it's kind of really unusual.
Exactly.
It's
I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous, really. It's like patience, but it gets ridiculous at some point. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay
Mhm.
with it.
Yeah. Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. And I always learn though. I always learn from it. So it's like, all right, but it's effort reward, and I'm aware now that, uh, I don't know. I just keep trying. I don't know. That's my fate, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah, yeah,
You just
yeah.
have to
But I
let the
learned from it. I
universe.
learned from it. Maybe I'll figure
Yeah.
out something that's missing somewhere along the line, And
Mhm.
so I keep going. What can you do? But
Yeah.
I
No,
just I'm not stressed or unhappy about it.
right.
I just see the bigger
It is
picture
what
of
it
it.
is. It is
Yeah,
what,
exactly.
because you
And
see the
I
reality of it. It's like
exactly.
Donna Taggart and those ladies. I don't lose sleep over it. Yeah, do I think about it every once in a while, what we used to do, or uh, but I see the bigger picture there, and what had happened had to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So,
I do have a peculiarity, I feel. I don't know if it's like this for other people, but I don't remember negative stuff. I
don't
don't.
you?
I just don't. It just is not in my mind. I mean, I remember it as a fact, yes, but not as a feeling, as an experience.
Mm,
So to me, if I look back at like with Olivia, to me it was always wonderful. It was always fantastic. I was always finding positive and moreness. You know,
mhm.
I don't remember. Yes, I know we had arguments and stuff, and I remember some of them, very unpleasant, negative arguments. But I don't remember
Hold
it
on
as
to
a
'em.
negative feeling. No, absolutely not. Never, ever, ever. Same thing when I was a kid. I mean, all I remember was all good. Was all good. Was all positive. So that makes me very tolerant,
Mhm. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I let go of stuff very quickly too. I mean, I can be upset and then okay,
Yeah, I
5 minutes.
don't remember. I could be pretty upset at the time, but I, I don't remember. That's funny. We talk about that.
Let it go.
I don't
Yeah.
remember. Bill goes, "Don't you remember?" I said, "Not really."
Oh,
He holds on to everything, remembers everything, good, bad, and otherwise.
yeah.
And I'm like, nope, I
Olivia and
guess.
Bina are the same way. They hold on to it forever, and it takes over and it starts to dominate their
Ah,
work. They get so immersed in it. It's like, okay, I was an idiot. All right, I'm sorry, I got upset. I'm stupid. I got caught up in it. And a lot of it too is the mirroring ability that I
mhm,
have to really do. I long ago. Oh gosh, this was probably like '93 somewhere. Anyway, just shortly after we came here. I made a New Year's resolution, only one I ever made, and it was to not be affected by the emotions of others.
mhm. Yeah.
That's a big problem for me. I'm quite happy and fine, but if you suddenly start and you get all upset, I pick that up, and then I get upset, and then the whole thing escalates from there. So this I manage it in the Zoom sessions really well, but
Mhm.
especially when I'm tired and I'm not like you're not in that mode. You're kind of defenseless, because you're not expecting it, and then suddenly boom, it comes like you react before you know it.
Yeah.
That gets me in trouble. And it's hard. It's hard because what do? I don't want to turn off that ability. It's
Yeah.
very valuable ability, but you need to manage it. So it's energy management issue because it almost always gets me when I'm low on energy, when I don't
Mhm.
have that the ability to maintain that
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
that
starting to put that
separation
more
of
of that
system.
focus on there. When I can't do it, I can't do it. I don't want to sit here and try to write something or try to do something
Oh, that's very
physical
important.
when
Very
I'm like,
important.
so what? Tomorrow's and that never used to be me. It's not that I become lazy. It's just
Yeah,
like, no,
yeah,
it's okay. The world isn't going to stop spinning on its fucking axis if I don't complete this
yeah.
a little project today. I don't have the energy for it. My mind isn't there. If I don't do my stuff in the morning, forget about it. That's when I am my freshest, my most energized afternoon, evening. I've tried. I'm like, no, I can't concentrate. I can't because I think I just use so much energy during the course of
Exactly.
the day.
It's critical, the energy management. It's
Yeah.
absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Very, very
Yeah, so
critical.
I just veg out for the night, you know what I mean? And Bill, we're up so early. Who cares? You know,
Exactly.
our life,
Exactly. Exactly. It's
you
brilliant.
know.
Yeah.
I'm
As
tired of
appropriate.
running
As
out
appropriate.
after work or after supper and helping this person or doing that or fixing this other project. Oh, please. I'd rather just chill, you
Since
know.
this is now, we know, focusing on the psychology, there is another thing that is peculiar and anomalous that comes up. And it's, again, similarities between both Bina and Olivia. Same thing. Okay. Not just the focusing on the negative and immersion into it. and remembering it, right? And really like kind of bothering it, like, to try and rationalize it and justify it in something that's an awful truth. But it's now the whole world has to change in order to, not the thing itself. But beside that, there's something else that's very problematic. It is excessive exaggeration, right? So, like say, well, like, okay, in the case of the Facebook Live, well, if you're embarrassed, that's an ego issue. Now I'm saying she's an egotist, she's egotistical, and she's a self-important, like an egomaniac. That was the word, egomaniac. I didn't say you're an egomaniac. I said, if you're embarrassed, this is an ego issue. But it gets taken to the absolute extreme. And no matter how much I say, no, I didn't say you're an egomaniac. I just said that's an ego issue, embarrassment. It makes no difference. It always comes back to that extreme, perpetually. There's like a desire to have this extremeness, and then the whole situation gets imbalanced.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is where things are shifting into a different brain. It's a fascinating thing.
Yeah.
It's an insistence on that extreme exaggeration. I mean, yes, I understand it psychologically, because now it gives an out. There's the unwillingness to face the fact that, well, if you're embarrassed, it's an ego issue. Yes, it is. Right. But now if I say it's exaggerated and she's saying, like, okay, you're saying this, she can now counter the exaggerated thing and prove that to be untrue. And by association, the fact that you were being egotistical is also proven untrue. Yeah. So it's kind of a massively monstrous ego issue, which it doesn't want to acknowledge. But well, okay, I don't know. It's just that inability to acknowledge an awful truth. Sometimes.
Yeah, it's that defense, because it's a defense mechanism that they don't know how to face that awful truth. And it's funny because Cheryl, if you said something to her, no, I'm not. You're saying that I'm an egomaniac, blah. She flew and jumped all over you. I'm like, wow, but I didn't say that. I mean, I've been through a lot with Cheryl, but that's how she got. But now she hears, because she's facing herself. Which again, Abina and an Olivia,
starting fresh, which is different,
exactly.
She's rebuilding herself, and that's what I recommended. Just throw all the stuff out and start fresh. Yeah, but they get entrenched in it.
Yeah, and again, the difference too is she wanted to do this in a big freaking way. It was
the magic
her
of it.
time. Exactly, everything fell into place. Bina, maybe, and or Olivia were just happened to be in a situation where an opportunity arose. Well, I guess, this could help me, but we're never maybe 100% on board. Cheryl is
as an opportunity to relearn and regrow from scratch. It was seen as an opportunity to enhance and
grow, enhance, grow.
Well, I mean, take what they believed about themselves and kind of prove it to take it more, to lock it in, right? So it was like a self-proof of my moreness, my wonderfulness, rather than learning again. So it's counterproductive, of course. I mean, yes, that moreness is there, but it needs to be based on real stuff.
Yeah,
you have to have the real application.
You're working on a platform of falsities.
Exactly.
In a lot of cases. And that's why sometimes being, I remember in this program when there were times like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
And this is what I've been doing all these years and it's wrong. But it hit me like a rock and saying, yes, this makes sense what I'm learning here. But talking about retraining your brain, but I didn't fight it. Yes, it took a little bit for that to kind of really get in there and for me to understand it completely, because I was so used to doing it a different way.
Self-honesty is the issue. And the willingness to let go of this previous idea that you were the be-all and queen bee and wonderful of everything. That addiction, that's the problem.
Yeah, Absolutely.
the big problem.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I can say, yeah, everybody put me on that pedestal, like, oh my God, go to Sue Lurie. Oh my God, she's got the, so you got to live up to that. And I'm
Exactly.
thinking, okay, now I learned, holy shit, Sue, there's a lot of stuff
Exactly.
you,
Exactly.
you didn't know. That should have been obvious, but it wasn't. So, okay, man, you come down a few wrongs, you know, and then you
And
start over. I
yeah,
feel better.
yeah,
I don't have that stress,
yeah.
that pressure. And I can see the more and more I learn from this, because there, you know, there's moments where you're like, can I really do this on my own? Kind of, you know, slightly.
Always it's there. Always.
But when somebody shows up, each and every time, I self-prove. I'm
Exactly.
like, this is so easy. My work
Exactly.
before.
I know. My tendency to kind of question myself and to look for proof and to test myself. I'm like, seriously, dude, seriously, you know, you haven't learned by now that you can do this. You haven't figured that out yet. It's like, come on, you know, really. So, but
eh,
still, I keep that because I don't want to let go of that humility.
No,
It
no,
served me
no.
well.
Yeah.
Served me well.
It's
I do
to
see
have a
the
little
track.
bit of it is still healthy. There's that humility there.
So
But
there is a problem that is, you know, like I saw this with Olivia and to some extent with Bina. When there's lots of personal interaction, my personal affection is a problem
hmm,
because through that affection, it gets associated with an approval of behavior.
ah,
So that bubble that is there gets constant approval through a misunderstanding. I'm loving the all of you. I'm fond of the all of you. I'm fond of you, flaws and all, warts and all. It doesn't matter. That's a different problem.
mhm.
How do you not be fond of somebody?
How do you not what?
How do you not? How do you deliberately not be fond of
Oh, yeah, yeah,
somebody?
yeah.
You know, or like or love somebody? It's
Yeah,
just not possible. But
yeah.
that now gets misinterpreted. Yeah. You know, it gives a false validation for the behavior.
Hmm.
Big
Yeah,
problem.
thinking again that she's that because there's that constant praise from you. Oh, Bina, one more word. Oh, please, you know, tell me you have made so many good things to say. We want to hear from you. So again, their pressure for her to perform is tremendous. And who knows what she's really thinking in there. Excuse me one sec. Hello. Yeah, good, Dane. How you doing? Oh, what time? 12 o'clock? Yeah, it's not. I usually have all your first appointments when you get in. Yeah, I'll actually take that appointment. Yeah, 12. Perfect. Perfect, honey. You bet, hon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
One other problem I noticed also were those exaggerations, because they are typically associated with deep emotion and thus emphasis, and a lot gets invested in them. They get to be believed after a while.
Believed by themselves or by
Yeah,
others. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they're taking a small, unpleasant, awful truth and then exaggerating it, right? Now, in the exaggeration, it's not true, and therefore I can combat it and fight against it and say, no, it's not true. But right, in order to avoid dealing with a small part of it that is true, right? So now I can say, well, no, you're wrong about this. You're wrong about this. You know, it wasn't an ego issue because I'm not an egomaniac. That's what they're really trying to do, to say, no, it wasn't an ego issue because I'm not an egomaniac. I never said you were an egomaniac. I said it was an ego issue. You know, you're trying to prove the one through denying the other. Okay, you know, it's slippery logic, right? Okay, but the problem is they get to believe that I actually said they were an egomaniac.
Yeah. And again,
Now,
but go ahead.
yes,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I was really fascinated to observe this with Olivia. This would happen in real time, and there would be a retroactive memory shift, right? In the moment, right? I mean, I remember my exact words, but they would repeat, but you just said this. And then what they would remember is different to what I actually said. happen in real time. And they would take something later that I said and move it forward in time, or the reverse, right? Something I said, now they would me remembering it as I said it earlier. No, I didn't say it earlier. Now I'm talking about egomania, but I never said it in the first place. I just, and that's really fascinating. And then in the mind, there's the absolute belief that I said stuff. And I really questioned that, for a long time. And then I started paying real close attention to it. And then, on the videos, I actually saw this, which was really cool too.
Yeah.
But it's just too fascinating. It's just too fascinating
Is it-
how the actual reality got shifted inside.
Yeah. But isn't it interesting that they go to the extreme? You said it's an ego issue. It could be anything with ego. Could be the simplest, most subtlest ego issue. They went to egomaniac, which is the worst condition possible. Now that glammed on into their brain. So every time that word comes up, they associate or misassociate with.
Exactly. And there is a truth to it, because it's not that they are in general overall egomaniacs, but every now and then when the ego gets pressed, it takes over and they get immersed in that ego aspect. And in that time, they are egomaniacs. So there is a truth to it, but it's, it's a truth in time and space. It's a bubble truth. See what I mean?
Yeah, they do become that when they're
they do become it, exactly.
But
they do become it, and it has a profound influence, because now they start to say things and do things which they remember, and now they've got to live up to and reconcile and balance, and it's a problem. They misassociate their actions with the whole. They think the part is the whole, but the whole takes responsibility for the actions of the part, and that's the biggest problem right there.
The whole takes say it again. The whole
takes responsibility for the actions of the part.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's like, if your hand is doing automatic writing and it writes all this absolute rubbish and say, I'm going to kill the president. That was my hand, not me, but I take responsibility for it, and then I get myself into trouble. See, so I'm just saying, for argument's sake,
Yeah.
Similar type of a logic, and it's a massive problem, and it's part of the deep inner goodness of taking responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, again, too, it is a tricky ethical problem. If I'm, I can't always say, yeah, this was my part, and use that as an excuse. I've got to manage that part. But when that part takes me over, and in the moment I was being that all, now it gets fuzzy, it gets tricky.
Yeah.
There we go.
Wow.
It's good to be aware, though, find nuance of stuff. So it's useful, just this deeper understanding of psychology. And I'm also sort of elaborating on it because you asked about motivation. And now we see how the motivations come. Is that intent to goodness and responsibility. It can be a corrupting motivation sometimes, because you take on too much responsibility.
Just like because you want to be good. Yeah.
But also there is that ego. It gets a stubbornness. It absolutely will not, under any circumstance, acknowledge mistake. For some reason, somewhere along the line, that prohibition to say I was completely wrong in stuff of that nature, this just becomes an absolute.
Wow.
I mean, I saw with
Olivia in the brain, how it shifts like that. For something that is technically could be very minuscule, that turns into this massive.
Exactly. And I saw that with Olivia. I mean, I would be some tiny, small little point, and then, it would start to be a discussion, and then it would go, and then it would come off topic, and it would get into absolute absurdities, stuff being brought into that's got nothing to do with the point. Now, I would be very disciplined and come back to it all the time. And, at some point when it was out of the bubble, at least Olivia acknowledged this when it came to others, how they would do this, they would do that same thing. And, and she acknowledged about herself, how she would just go into. There's no way I'm going to. She mentioned it with Gabriel in our relationship with Gabriel. I know where I was going to let him get his point or whatever. It doesn't matter how stupid I had to go. So there's awareness of this. It's fascinating.
Hmm.
Going to absurd extreme lengths to
Yeah.
that refusal to acknowledge the wrongdoing. Amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I
It
don't
go-
know if that's something that's kind of hardwired or not. I don't know.
Yeah, but also I think though, but it's a habit I think that can shift because, it's really about when someone says something to you that might have the slightest negative context
Yeah.
to it. Okay. Isn't that time to just really power pause and go, okay, I heard what he said.
Yeah.
Is that what part of that do I take responsibility for? And what part of that do I give back to that person? Because sometimes it's that transference. It can be a lot of different things. But if you first retrain that brain to that new habit that says, do I need to reflect on this? Do I need to look at this? Is this who I am? Do I need to take some responsibilities? What is involved in ego here? Oh, is this something little? Is this something big? Otherwise, boom, there is something in that hardwiring of the system that takes them completely to the extreme version of it.
Yeah. And that extreme is a problem.
Yeah.
And yeah, I am a problem in the equation. Me
Right.
just being me.
It's the blame.
So, because, and I saw this with Olivia. So she has an idea of herself, and that idea has, more. And she wasn't didn't think she was too fantastic and that, but much like Olivia, she was very much admired, and people liked her, and in a situation like that, very, very people really liked her and loved her.
Oh, she was lovely when we met her. Lovely.
Right. I mean, she's a very lovely person. This is a fantastically lovely person. But now it's based on what? Right? Now, when you get into all the deepness and the sophistication and the moreness of the stuff that I talk about and share, I would share all my ideas with her. Each time I shared my moreness in her mind, it made the gulf between us bigger. And that's a problem, because now you would rather not to be involved with this than acknowledge that the gulf is big. Because if you acknowledge this, the idea is that I would want to have nothing to do with them. If I was to be aware of just in their mind, when they're feeling that there's nothing going on inside, I'm hollow inside, which isn't of course true, but it's a feeling based on a relative perception. And now they say, well, if I acknowledge I'm wrong, and I sort of open up and admit that, well, look, basically, I don't know what's going on. I'm lost inside. I know some things, but I'm pretty much lost in general. Then I would want to have nothing to do with them, and they don't want to risk that. So they rather separate and not to be with me than guarantee it for sure.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Yeah. So, I mean, there's always a connection in some way. Yeah. But it's this fear of complete cessation that if I really know what's going on inside you, I would want to have nothing to do with you.
Yeah, if they really find out who the true me is, they're not going to want me. So I'm just going to step aside now before the real shit hits the fan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
just, again, and what does it come back to? It comes back to their self-esteem, their self-value, their self-honesty. That's lacking at some level. It's not. In all cases, not completely gone.
It's a perspective issue, and it's a labeling issue, and that exaggeration from one extreme to the other, that's Venus post. It's just going into that extremism now.
Yeah.
Take and it's a focus on the negative, not the positive. I don't know if some brains are just hardwired to focus on the negative. I don't know.
Cheryl's definitely was. If you'd say, "Oh, your hair really looks nice," what do you mean? It doesn't look nice all the time?
Yeah.
Hey. They couldn't even take it. She couldn't even take a compliment, let alone try to tell her something. That's why in the beginning, when she said Sue used to really choose her words wisely with me, and she noticed the shift that it's not that way anymore, because she would fucking jump all over you.
Cheryl is very encouraging. So, I never give up. I never give up on this. I never give up. So
Yeah.
See, I mean, I just keep with Olivia, just keep on this point. This is so
Yeah,
evident at
absolutely.
some point, Yeah, and
Yeah.
you start all over again, and you rebuild it, and you've got to prove it. The self-proof point. That's a
Mhm.
big point. This is a key point. This belief that we can, based on what we actually can. I saw that many times.
Mhm.
With
Yeah.
Olivia, there was a discrepancy, and when it came to where we actually did some practical implementation, like when I first started making, well, I made some videos for the for one of the first client we had, that he asked us to do. And, we had to go on video and say things and read on a teleprompter. It was no willingness. It didn't work out the way she wanted. And it was one or two tries. And then it was, oh, give up.
Mm.
I never got that. Keep
Yeah.
going
She
until you get
failed.
it to where
Right.
you
She
want it.
failed. And
Yeah.
that was too much
Yeah.
for her. And then to have a public
Good. Just give
display
up.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But again, because the image didn't match the reality,
Right.
she was very
Correct.
excited to do it at first. But then when she did it and it didn't quite work out the way she thought it was going to be, then it just lost interest, like all gone, completely gone. No interest at all in order to kind of practice and refine it and do it again. And I mean, it's none of that, none. It's
Mm.
just I don't get it. It's just too
Yeah.
amazing.
And that too, could that be a form of ego in and of itself? Oh, I don't need to practice. I know everything.
Oh, absolutely. But
And
the
then you
problem
crash
is,
and burn.
but the problem is that she wanted to do this, and then I had to, do it in her stead. And the same thing when it came to facilitating those workshops. When we first started, I had it all worked out, and I did, and I had to test. I got a friend of ours in, and I was awkward when I first started. Okay, I persevered, but then I said, okay, it's your turn now. Because it was over a couple of sessions. And she did that, and it wasn't going and it wasn't working right. And she just said, okay, you continue. And she just passed it off to me.
Mm.
Didn't want to make any effort to learn. So she always came in as a subsidiary, as a secondary, not ever able to lead the sessions
Yeah,
herself.
lead.
In other words,
Right.
if I wasn't there, she wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
But in her
Exactly.
mind, she could.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that's a big, big, big problem. It's the proof, in other words.
Yeah.
Just because you are not fluent in it doesn't mean you can't do it. But that's the association there somewhere. There's not that willingness to endure a bit of awkwardness and not have it be perfect and say, okay, I'm going to slowly improve. And there's not the idea, the understanding that if you just do it, it will come to you. It will improve. You just got to kind of go through it a little bit. You'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Crazy shit. Yeah. Okay.
That's why I emphasize capital P practice. And
Yeah.
I go, I over and over, every time it comes up, I say, look, initially there's that you have to learn to be uncomfortable with, or comfortable with the uncomfortable. And to understand that, you take this first step and you don't know what's going on. The second step, it gets better. And then the brain changes through the immersion and all the stuff. I really hammer this so that, when people do it a couple of times and they realize, and you look back and you've got a series of events. You say, every time I started and I was so uncomfortable and I thought I couldn't do it. And then I did, and then suddenly it came right. Once you realize that, you start to be able to take on anything. So this is a key lesson.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely key lesson.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I want to finish this thing and then we're going to stop there because that other phone call, now I have to leave early.
Sure. All right. Yeah. Let's go.
All right. So it's just the end of that slide 9. We think we are actually doing something when we attach anxiety, worry to the expression of our fears and lack of learning. But is that real? Does anxiety and worry help you? So my takeaway was, for me, it's easier to blame others for what is really our issue or problem. When we look at others and see our own reflection, it's time to take charge and do something to change instead of attaching worry and anxiety to all of it. Think about whether or not adding anxiety and worry to our fears and lack of learning is really helpful or not. Yeah. So you have to really take a deep dive in that, going, really, what, is this really the way I'm going to learn? Yeah. Be real. Yeah. So, all right. I got to run because I'm going to, now I'm going to.
Brilliant, Sue. Brilliant.
All right.
Brilliant. I love
Thanks.
it.
All right.
All right. Be good. See you later.
You too. Bye-bye.